Our next witness is Mr. Frank Knapp, who's the Vice Chairman of the American Sustainable Business Council and President of the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Knapp, we appreciate you coming in and look forward to your testimony.
I'm Frank Knapp, Jr., President and CEO and co-founder of the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce and Vice Chair of the American Sustainable Business Council. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. The South Carolina Chamber of Commerce is a statewide advocacy organization with over 5,000 members that promotes more small business-friendly state and federal government. The American Sustainable Business Council, founded in 2009, and its members now represent over 150,000 businesses and more than 300,000 entrepreneurs, owners, executives, investors, and business professionals across the country. These diverse business organizations cover the gamut of local and state chamber of commerce, microenterprise, social enterprise, green and sustainable business groups, local living economy groups, women business leaders, economic development organizations, and investor and business incubators. I had the opportunity to read the testimony of Mr. Holman, representing the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. Merrick, representing the National Association of Remodeling Industry, prior to preparing my comments. And I commend them for their civility of their remarks and their focus on the Regulatory Flexibility Act as it pertains to the Environmental Protection Agency. Both gentlemen recognize the importance of the Regulatory Flexibility Act for ensuring that regulations are reviewed to determine if they are too burdensome for small businesses and if the goals of regulations can be achieved in alternative methods. They pointed out some instances where the business community and EPA didn't agree, but they also point out successful RFA stories. In 2004, my South Carolina organization worked with our South Carolina Chamber of Commerce and the NFIB to pass a Regulatory Flexibility Act modeled after the federal law. Last August, the then chairman of the South Carolina Small Business Regulatory Review Committee told me that over the previous 7 years, his committee had reviewed over 300 proposed regulations and identified only 10 that raised their concern. His committee worked with the state agencies promulgating these new regulations and satisfactorily resolved the issues. The Regulatory Flexibility Act has created an effective process to protect small businesses, even if the process itself needs some attention from time to time. Mr. Holman correctly identifies one area where the EPA's compliance with the RFA can be improved: more resources for the rulemaking process. While there are voices we hear in Washington critical of the EPA and calls for cutting back or freezing the regulatory process, the reality is that it can work better for small businesses and the public if the EPA was better funded. With more resources, the EPA can do a better job of meeting the requirements of the RFA to the benefit of small business. However, more resources for the EPA would not only allow the agency to be more efficient and effective in complying with the RFA, it would also enable the organization to do a better job of protecting the public's and environment's health while unleashing entrepreneurial innovations and creating jobs. Every responsible new rule that protects the health of our citizens and workers opens a door to newer and better products. Our nation is loaded with these small business entrepreneurs just waiting to solve a problem when the demand is created. The Toxic Substance Control Act is so outdated that the EPA's resources so strained that there are literally over 80,000 chemicals in the agency's inventory, but it's only been able to require testing for only about 200. Just yesterday, the state of California took the lead on investigating the health hazards of toxic flame retardant chemicals used in furniture and mattresses, while not providing protection from fires. The EPA should be examining this national hazard, but it doesn't have the resources. Can the materials we sleep in and sleep on and sit on be non-toxic and still resist fire? Absolutely. Ask Barry Chick, owner of Naturepedic in Cleveland, Ohio. Naturepedic manufactures baby and crib mattresses that provide proper support, meet government flammability requirements, provide waterproofing, seamless designs, and other hygienic features, all without the use of harmful chemicals or allergic materials. But instead of helping this innovative industry take off and make bedding healthier for families, we protect the use of carcinogen materials of the past by not properly empowering the EPA with the needed legislative resources and support. The public and small business owners want good regulations. A recent national poll of small business owners conducted for the American Sustainable Business Council found that 80% support disclosure regulations of toxic materials, 79% support ensuring clean air and water, and 61% support moving the country towards energy efficiency and clean energy. It is very clear that the future of our economy really depends on our tying to sustainable economy. And the EPA really has the opportunity, if we take this opportunity to empower them and give them the resources to actually move us toward that sustainable economy faster. So thank you very much for the opportunity to testify today.
Opened up when I heard it. Did you say that more money for the EPA is what is needed? So basically, what I heard, and tell me if I'm wrong, is more money for the EPA for more regulation is going to help the economy.
Congressman, what I heard and what I read in the testimony today was that there's concern that the EPA is not fulfilling all the requirements of the RFA, that they sometimes move faster than they should move. And what that tells me, as somebody who's been around for a while, is that maybe they don't have the resources, that they may aspire to do these things, but like any organization that does not have sufficient resources, they start moving things quicker. And so that's what I meant. I mean, literally, if we want them to do the perfect job for small businesses and comply with all of the RFA to the letter of the law, then they need to have the resources to do that. And that will serve all these gentlemen up here much better. And so, yes, I hate to say this, but I think that that there are resources and support for the EPA could solve a lot of the problems that you've heard today.
Very good. And then the RFA requires federal agencies to analyze the impact of regulations on small entities. Do you think this is a good idea?
The RFA, absolutely, it's a good idea. I mean, from our experience in South Carolina, again, a friend of mine who Congressman Mulvaney knows, Monty, you know, he headed that organization for the original chairman of it, went for 7 years, analyzed 300 regulations being promulgated by state agencies in South Carolina, found 10 that they weren't happy with. They worked with those agencies, and it all worked out. So, yes, small businesses need to have that type of protection, that type of input that we were talking about into the process with the RFA.
Okay. And it is out there to make sure that we do have a free market that operates properly and does not put the consumer at a disadvantage. But I think there's a simple maxim out there that the more you regulate something, the less you get of it. You know, I'm down in the state of Florida, and we have the EPA suing our state over this thing called numeric nutrient criteria, which is basically telling our farmers and some of our local municipalities that they have to produce storm drains or runoff water that's parts per billion purer than rainwater. And, of course, when they were challenged, the EPA couldn't tell them where they got that formula from. You know, we've got you know, we're big in the maritime industry down along the coastline there, southeast coast. Twin V catamarans, you know, the gentleman there, Roger, had to hire an EPA compliance assistant because of all the regulations that were coming down as far as, you know, construction and gasoline tank construction and motors and things of that nature. And that one EPA compliant assistant caused him to not be able to hire 3 people to build boats. And so, you know, my question to you all, the panel, is, you know, do you all believe that the Small Business, you know, the Flexibility Act, the panel that works with the Regulatory Flexibility Act, they are failing in trying to constrain or you know, rein in the EPA as far as, you know, listening to you and taking into account some of the ramifications thereof on your businesses or industries or what have you before they issue these regulations? And before I close out and get your response, you know, Lisa Jackson came up here, the administrator of the EPA, last year before the Energy and Commerce Committee, and when she was asked, does she take in the economic impact of the regulations that they're producing, she said no. And that's the problem that I have. So I'd like to know what impact are you seeing, and whether you believe the Small Business Regulatory Flexibility Act and the panel is really, you know, meeting up to its intents, or is you're just getting steamrolled?
Congressman, thank you very much. By the way, it's a pleasure to meet you this way.
Thank you.
Not sure what that's about. Thank you, Congressman.
We're all from the South, Mick.
I
we
know.
can like each other.
We try to be polite, don't we?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Mick's not polite.
Look, there's always that balance. There's always that balance between protecting the health and safety of our people and our environment and not having that heavy burden. And that's what the RFA is supposed to look at least for the small businesses who will be impacted by those regulations. To the degree they may not be being able to work with everybody to the extent they need it. I will go again and say that a lot of it comes back to resources. I don't think that the EPA has
I don't think the EPA needs more stuff.
Well, that's not what I hear here, but that's okay. If you want good quality work out of any organization, whether it be private sector or public sector, you've got to make sure that it has the adequate funds to do the job. And I don't think the EPA has any malevolency in it. Thank you,
Good to see a fellow South Carolinian, Mr. West, commented on his way out that he didn't think you were really from South Carolina. I assured him that you were. One of the things that I've learned in the short time that I've been here is that I'm going to disagree with folks all the time. We do these hearings all the time, and we always hear opposing views, which I always appreciate. I've also come to know, however, that I'd like to know where the information is coming from. If I'm on a hearing and I have Heritage and I have Brookings, I can understand where they're coming from. If I've got an economist from Yale and one from the University of Chicago, I've got a sense for where I'm coming from. So anytime I get a group that comes in and calls themselves the Small Business Chamber of Commerce from any state, South Carolina or wherever, which at one time or another has supported Dodd-Frank, the public option in health care, cap and trade, thought the stimulus was too small, supports Boiler Act, opposed tort reform, and then actually was advocating for a brand new state small business government agency, as your organization has done all of those things. I want to talk a little bit about who you all are. And I think it's a fair question. You've heard other folks, say today that they can't believe someone from a small business group is saying some of the things you're saying. The group has actually come up before in conversation. And if we could, actually, before I ask a question, I've got the stuff off your website, and there's your affiliated groups, your members and all that. And one of the groups that's been here before is the Main Street Alliance. You folks are affiliated with that group?
The Main Street Alliance is an organization we have worked for. We don't have any formal affiliation with them other than we have partnered on issues at the national level before.
Gotcha. And how long has that relationship gone on?
We probably have been working with the Main Street Alliance on issue on and off probably for the last 3 years.
Could we play my video, please? Is that ready?
Chairman, I yield back the balance of my time. Mr. Chairman, may I, for the record, point out that we do not have an affiliate in South Carolina, and we are not affiliated with the Small Business Chamber of Commerce.
To that point, if I may reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
Now, actually, what I went on to tell Mr. Daly in that time was your site, your organization was linked on their website, as yours is. Later that day, your organization came off of their website. So I'm going to ask you a simple question. Mr. Daly telling us the truth when he said he's not affiliated with you folks at all?
Well, Congressman, if I might, I think that was very unfair of you to do that to Bill Daley, who's a friend of mine. He did not know you were going to bring that up. He had no idea where that came from. He is not responsible for what goes on the website of the Main Street Alliance. So I think that was really, really unfair of you to do that. So I just want to put that out right away.
Why did you think it was unfair, Mr. Knapp?
It's unfair because the gentleman was there to talk about another issue altogether. And for you to bring up and start talking about the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce, which was not invited to the table, I don't think it's up to Mr. Daly to defend us. I can do that very well, thank you.
Well, was it up to Mr. Daly to not tell us the truth about his affiliation with your organization?
He was not telling you the truth.
So you think
he does not run that website. He doesn't know who put that on there or what it says. But all it does is the same as ours. We have a relationship from time to time with the small business majority, with the Main Street Alliance, with some other organizations. That doesn't mean we're part of them. We just have good relationships with them and want to promote them to other people that come to our website.
I don't remember what Mr. Daly's title is with the Main Street Alliance. I do remember, however, that he had enough influence over the website to take your organization off of it before the end of the day.
And I can assure you that Mr. Daly did not do that because I got contacted by Sam Blair, who is with the administration of the Main Street Alliance. He told me what went on. He sent me that video, which I was appalled at, and they did remove it because, frankly, sir, you intimidated them.
I think it's always fair, Mr. Knapp, to know the motivations for the people who are giving testimony here, and to know who they're affiliated with, know who they really are. And again, if you're going to be the Small Business Chamber of Commerce and come in and say things like, what I really think will bump up the economy is to give the EPA more money, then you can fully expect us to start asking some questions about your organization, the Main Street Alliance. In fact, let's talk about your organization.
Well, no, let me interrupt you, sir.
No, you don't get to do that, actually, Mr. Knapp. We're not on your radio show.
When it's my turn, I will bring it up.
We're not on your radio show yet.
Thank you, sir.
Let's talk about your organization. You advertise as having 5,000 plus members. How many of those are members of the South Carolina Academy of Trial Lawyers? Oh, I'm sorry, the new name is the South Carolina Association
for Justice. We provide membership, we grant membership to the associations that belong as trade associations. This has been a long standard of ours. So when the South Carolina Association for Justice becomes a member and has a board member, we convey membership on all of them. Doesn't mean that they're paying dues, but we convey a membership and we count them toward that effect.
In fact, it's free to be a member of your association.
You can, absolutely, sir. We've always been under the principle that we'd rather have more members than more money. Now, that means we live hand to mouth, but it also means that we get to communicate our message to the members, to the people of South Carolina, to the small businesses, and we find that it resonates.
But of your 5,000 plus members, and is it 6,000, is it about 5,000, is that fair? That's what your website says.
Yes, sir.
How many of those are you counting are members of the Academy of Association for Justice?
And that's probably about, I'd say that their membership is probably around 1,500.
Okay, and then how many of your members in that 5,000 are members of the workers' comp bar?
They're all, as you probably know, sir, the Injured Workers Advocates and the Association for Justice basically have overlapping membership.
Gotcha. All right. Do you have any home builders who are your members?
You know, we used to have the home builders as a trade association, and then they dropped off as a trade association member. We still have our heating and air conditioning members of our association.
So you don't have any home?
I have not asked them that question.
Do you have any remodelers?
I have not asked them that question.
Do you have any remodelers to Mr. Merrick?
Yes, we do have remodelers. I know we do that.
And did you ask them about your presentation here today, that you think giving EPA more money is?
We did not poll our membership and ask them what I should say today, as I imagine that most members did not poll every one of their members to ask them what they are going to say today.
What you refer to a lot of polling in your statements today. Where did those polls come from?
Those polls are national polls conducted on behalf conducted for the American Sustainable Business Council and the Main Street Alliance and the Small Business Majority, and that is where those polling data come from.
Do you have any paving contractors?
We may have paving I could be glad to go research this when I get back.
All right, and we all reserve the right to ask questions afterwards.
Thank you,
so
sir.
We'd be more than happy to send you those things. I get asked the same thing about convenience store owners, swimming pool installers, auto body shops. I'm just stunned, Mr. Knapp, that, again, as I was with the Main Street Alliance, that somebody comes in and says, look, I represent small business, and I really think the way we can fix things is to give the EPA more money. I've never heard that before from anybody other than the EPA. And other folks who like the EPA a lot. And I'm just stunned. I could ask you the same questions about Boiler Act, which you support. And I've been through our state. You know, we go home as much as we possibly can, and every small business I go to is scared to death of Boiler Act, and yet you're here promoting it. You don't get to ask any questions, Mr. Knapp. Again, we're not on your radio show. Which reminds me, this is not, your work with the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce is not your full-time gig, is it?
Although, sir, I do not get paid a full-time salary, or I probably spend majority of my time on the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce. And I might add, we have never taken a position on that boiler issue. Never.
Now, a majority of your time, how much of your time is at the Knapp agency, your public relations firm that you own and operate?
Well, I'm not sure that this is under the purview of this committee, but I would probably say about 15–20% of my time is with my public relations firm.
And then how much of it is as the progressive talk show host on WOIC in Columbia?
I have 2 hours a day show every weekday afternoon from 4 to 6, and sir, I invite you to be a guest anytime you want to.
In fact, I listened a couple days ago when you invited in Mr. Matt Gertz, the Deputy Research Director for Media Matters, for his input. You were looking for a responsible media representative to talk about what was going on in the right-wing media, and you invited Media Matters in to do that. And again, do you want to give a plug to the radio? Is it, what, 12:40 a.m. or something?
Well, it's 12:30 a.m. on the dial. You can go to youneedtoknow.info and stream it anytime you want to.
Mr. Knapp, I appreciate you coming here today. You've been a good sport, but again, I think it's important that we understand exactly who's giving us the testimony. By the way, who invited you to be here today?
I was invited to be here today. That invitation came through the American Sustainable Business Council.
But you were a Republican requested witness or a
Democrat? No, sir. I was in the minority.
Okay. Again, nothing of what I've tried to do here, Mr. Knapp, is today to undermine the veracity of what you're saying. I actually believe that you believe just about everything that you said.
Thank you,
that's
sir.
not my point here. My point here is to let everybody on this committee know who's giving them testimony, to take that into consideration as we sit here and go through the issues. There is one thing I don't believe, Mr. Knapp, and I'll close with this. You said that you hated to say this, but you really think the EPA should get more money. And I don't believe that. I believe that you really do want to say that, and you really do believe the EPA should get more money. With that, I'll yield back the balance of my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.